They rode the luck last night, didn't they?
They did. It was. I'm really pleased for them, actually, for the supporters especially. I think at one point in the game, well, half-time especially, there was doom and gloom, and rightly so. It was an awful first-half performance. And at 1-1, when Kolasinac, the former Arsenal player, missed the header from, 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, whatever he was.
Incredible.
Bad miss. Do you know what? There's moments sometimes in a manager's career at a certain club that define what happens next. You think back all those years ago when Mark Robbins, FA Cup, Man United, Fergie, they were singing for him out, weren't they? And they got through and ended up winning the cup. Steven Gerrard's half volley late in the game, against Olympiacos. A poor season, Rafa's first season, ended up keeping him in the Champions League and going on to win it. That gave him the platform to then make Liverpool competitive. And maybe Conte's just had a moment. Maybe that's the moment. Because I tell you what, if they'd have gone out last night, I'd have feared for him because the fans would have turned.
But Danny, why can't Tottenham start in the front foot in games? I heard Genius and the boys talking about this last night.
Well, it's the manager. The manager sets up the game plan and you do your best to go with it. There is also, in certain games, you could group the players in with that because you do tend to, in football, protect what you've got. And when you walk onto a pitch in a game where you need a draw, and I've done it before, you do play with a bit of caution. But Tottenham have done it so consistently, started badly, I mean, too pragmatically and too cautiously, that it has to be the philosophy of the manager. And then they go down and the shackles come off and they play on the front foot. Now, I mean, suppose it's not an issue, it being a second-half team if it gets some results, and last night it got them results. It will become an issue. Yeah. It will become an issue. The big question, there's nothing wrong with doing it against teams like Man City, where you know they're going to dominate the ball. There are certain games Tottenham play against certain opposition where, with the quality they have, and last night being case in point, because they're so much better than Marseille, if they'd have gone after them early, they could have had the game done by half-time. Yes, exactly. So why don't they? Well, it's just one person's philosophy on how football is going to be played, and how he's going to get success, and how he's had success. Well, of course, Liverpool last night needed a result. They got one. They beat Napoli 2-0, a late double there. Get your view on that in a second, Simon. But why is Europe such a reprieve from Klopp's domestic woes right now? This was Klopp post-match.
We all agreed on that we have to show a reaction. And we did in a very difficult game against a really good opponent. We were compact, so it was never easy for Napoli to play out in all the moments. And you see a football playing side in all moments when they could play out. You saw immediately how good they are. We did really well. We kept the spaces small, and all of a sudden we found challenges. All of a sudden we have the challenges, and we can win challenges. The distance was there. A lot of good counter-pressing moments, good football moments. Scored 2 really nice goals, where we showed as well the right determination. We were there for the rebounds and finished it off and won the game.
Simon, I mean, that still to me remains a question. Why is Europe such a reprieve from Klopp's domestic woes? It seems to be. Well, it didn't start that way, did it? Because they got their heads handed to them in the first game of the European campaign by Napoli. Yeah, but since then. But I think you've got to look at the opposition. I think you've got to look at the manner in which European football is played against the way that domestic football is played, and ask the question yourself: is it more suited currently to the way Liverpool? We had this debate with Graeme Souness on Monday about the lack of legs or energy in the middle of the park that needed to have been changed, and the complementing of young players that probably too early in their evolution to be sort of mainstays in the team. But it must be something to do with the manner. I mean, yesterday's game, Napoli, there was no jeopardy on that game for Napoli because they'd already qualified. So maybe there was less motivation to put Liverpool to the sword, or maybe Liverpool just put out a very good performance individually in that game. And maybe arguably the challenges in the Premier League are more difficult than some of the European opposition they're coming up against, notably Rangers, clearly. With no great joy taken from that statement, and Ajax as well. And you look at those teams and say, where would they fare against some of the opposition that Liverpool played in the Premier League recently? I don't know the answer to that question, but I do think that there is a style of play in Europe that's slightly different. Hence the reason there must be, because everyone forever day and a day talks about the fact that European experience is something Manchester City didn't have, and that's why they haven't won the competition, despite the fact all their players in their team have played for top European sides and been competitive in that tournament. That argument doesn't necessarily hold together, but I think it's primarily because the opposition they're playing in this stage of the Champions League has proved to be less compelling, with the exception of Napoli,
than possibly the ones they've played in the Premier League.
I mean, certainly domestically, Danny, big question marks over Liverpool. That there's no denying. And I know this is a club you love, etc., but it's not been going well. I mean, you did try and pass off the Nottingham Forest defeat as one of those things that can happen. So losing to Leeds at home, is that another of those things that can happen?
I spoke on Monday night about it, actually. The more you look at it, you have to accept that there's some problems. Of course you do. It's gone past being a blip. And I think if there was one obvious problem, it would be an easy fix. I think there's various things that have caused it, and we've talked about time and time again. But Liverpool are still more than capable of playing really well, given if you watch the City game, even last night against good, the intensity was better, the shape was better. Lots of things were good about last night, winning the ball back high up. You know, all those different, we associate with Liverpool performances we've seen in certain games, but not enough. So why isn't there consistency? Well, I think there's an accumulation of things, which is, I said, beginning of the season, complacency. There's been injuries. I think there's definitely been a hangover a little bit of missing out on the two big ones the end of last season. The intensity Liverpool have played at for years might be catching up with a few, which I think is what Simon was alluding to, talking to Graeme about in the midfield area. But
he just goes on to us about the midfield area being the main problem.
I think that's down on the list, the midfield. Although Fabinho's not been himself, I don't think the midfield's been a huge
So what's
problem.
high up the list?
Individual errors at the back defensively has been absolutely. I did a thing last week looking at all Liverpool's goals they've conceded. The amount of them at individual errors is unbelievable. I mean, you can't coach that. It's a confidence thing. It's a mindset thing. You can put up any shape you want, but if you're making it stupid individual errors and switching off, and people are scoring,
you're going to lose games.
Yeah. So there's been some poor performances which can come from lots of, as I just said, lots of reasons. But I don't think it's going to be a quick fix because, well, it can't be. There's only 2 games. What is it? 2 games now before the World Cup. So they're going to go off to the World Cup. They've got out the group. They're going to be outside the Champions League places. And what he wants to do is get all his players back come decent. Well, it's late.
Graeme spins us a yarn that everything stems from the midfield. That there's an age problem, both ends of the spectrum. Too many young players that aren't capable at this stage in their careers to be at the level they need to be to get Liverpool they want to be, and too many old players that are running out of legs. And he keeps on, and he said, and that then compounds the issues where defensively you're seeing the impact upon the defenders because they're not being covered by the midfield players in the way they once were, and that's what he attributes it to. And he's absolutely doubled down on that. And he didn't, and he's saying it was evident. And I then asked the question: well, if it's evident to you, which it wasn't at the beginning of the season, Graeme, and it's evident now, then why isn't it evident to Klopp? Because Klopp's job is to replenish, reinvigorate, and revitalise a team, and know when it's got to be changed. And surely Klopp must have seen that.
Well, I don't think he's seen it because it's not there.
So you're completely in a diametrically opposed view to Graeme.
I think Fabinho's probably the best example of one of the midfield mainstays who's below himself physically, but I don't think his legs are gone. I think he's just having a bad spell. Sometimes when you're not playing well, it looks like you're physically low. That's football world over. When you're not playing well, it affects you physically. Fabinho's not himself, although he's still decent, but he's not the high level he's been mainstay in that holding midfield role. So he's the only one I could really say. Thiago's been, every time I see Thiago plays well, he just doesn't play enough.
Henderson's in and out though, isn't he?
Henderson's the one a bit in and out, which surprises me because he still looks physically great. Milner very, very rarely starts in midfield.
Are they going to end up top 4?
I still think they've got a chance.
You still think that? You said that last week, but you still think that?
I still think they've got a chance because when you look at who they're competing...
Tottenham on Sunday at Tottenham.
Big game. Big game. But if you look at who they're competing with, which is Tottenham, Chelsea, Newcastle...
Arsenal.
Well, Arsenal are up there. I think they're going to be top 4 because of the amount of points they've got. The others, none of them are brilliant. None of them are consistently... You're not watching Chelsea at the minute and thinking, oh, they're frightening me. They're all over, different formations, different personnel. United are steady, but wouldn't scare you. I don't think they're going to go on a 10-game winning run, which Liverpool can do.
Yeah.
And so when we get, if they can go to Tottenham and win, which they can, by the way.
Sorry, how are you pulling that one out of your head that Liverpool can go to 10-game winning run when they've got results against Forest, Leeds, Brighton, Everton, and Fulham?
Well, because they've done it so many times before with the same players.
Yeah, but okay, when?
In the last 2 seasons.
Well, no, the season before last, they defended their Premier League title
last
atrociously.
Season, all right, let's bring it more forward. Last season, They finished in a point of Man City.
Yeah.
And lost, I don't know the figures, but lost a few games, not many. They had 2 great runs in terms of winning games continuously last season. It's the same squad, apart from Mane. That's it. Oh, so why is that squad now incapable of doing the same? Of course it's capable. So you throw Jota back in the mix. You throw Diaz back in the mix. You keep everyone fit. You win a couple of games. The confidence goes through. You have a good run of fixtures. And all of a sudden, they can go on a run.
Guys, I'm going to jump in and we'll go to a break. But, I mean, I'll put it out there this morning. Why can't Tottenham start in the front foot in games? Is it an issue being a second-half team if it gets results? 03717 223344 81089. There's Ryan, who hasn't hung around this morning. He's got in quick. Jim, they had a last-minute winner last night, but it just papers over the cracks. Let's talk about Spurs when they win something real, like a cup final. Never going to happen, says Ryan. And what happened to Rangers? Well, not much, but they're the worst of the worst, apparently.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.